In a confusing world, I feel very blessed to know how to be good with my money, even at a very young age. This has led me to be able to save, invest, and overall control my money. Today, I'm giving you my knowledge so you can do the same. But let's be honest, money is hard right now. And if you feel like you're constantly behind, constantly stressed, and no matter what you do, it never feels like enough, you're not crazy for thinking that. Because everywhere you look, something is pulling money out of your pocket. So let me ask you this. Why does it feel like you're always spending more money than you should be? Why does it feel like everyone else has it figured out except you? And why does it feel like even when you try to be responsible, life just keeps getting more expensive anyway? The first thing I would blame is social media. And I know, social media affects spending sounds like something you've heard 1,000 times before, but it's usually explained in a way that feels distant, like influencers, luxury cars, and million-dollar mansions. And while that's part of the story, it's not the full story. Most of the pressure from online doesn't come from celebrities, it comes from your friends. It's seeing someone post a vacation and be like, wait, I haven't gone on a vacation in a while. It's seeing somebody got a new car, one of your friends got a new car, and it's like, maybe I need an upgrade too. And even if you don't say it out loud, you feel it, right? But it's not just social pressure. There's also the real world pressure that you can't scroll past. Gas prices jump and suddenly your commute costs more. Groceries go up and your usual budget doesn't stretch as far. Rent increases and somehow you're supposed to just figure it out. And even when inflation slows down, prices don't really go back. They just rise slower, so the damage is already done. So you're stuck in this weird place where everything is getting more expensive, but your income doesn't feel like it's moving at the same speed. And then there's the bigger stuff nobody really explains clearly, like student loans. We're told for most of our lives to go down the simple path of go to college, get a degree, and you'll be fine. But what happens when that simple path comes with $30,000 or $50,000? Sometimes even more in debt? Are you really free when you graduate, or are you just starting life already behind? And I'm not one of those people that say college is evil. I'm currently going through college. That's not the point. The point is just to be honest, because if you've ever felt like money is harder than it should be, you're not imagining it. It is harder. And if you ever felt overwhelmed, confused, or like you're trying your best but you're still not getting ahead, yeah, that makes sense. You're not wrong for feeling that way. All that being said though, I don't want to just sit here and tell you that money is hard and life is expensive and then leave you with nothing, because that would be pointless. So the real question is, what can you actually do about it? How can you take control of your money in your 20s when everything feels expensive, confusing, and kind of out of control? Let's break it down into something simple. The first thing you need to understand is that debt is the thing that quietly steals your future. And I want to be careful here, because I'm not saying all debt is bad. The reality is most people will deal with debt at some point in their lives. Some people will use a credit card, some people will take out a car loan, student loans, and if you want to buy a house one day, you're probably going to deal with a mortgage too. So it's not realistic to say never go into debt, especially in our day and age. That's not how the real world works. But what is realistic is that you should be trying to stay in the least amount of debt as possible at all times. Because debt doesn't just take money from you today, it takes money and freedom from your future. So instead of thinking, how do I avoid this right now, start thinking, what is going to cost me long term? For example, if you can avoid credit card debt entirely, do it. That interest adds up faster than most people realize. If you can go to a cheaper school or start at a community college to reduce student loans, that's not settling, that's just reducing financial future pressure. If you can buy a reliable used car instead of taking on a massive car loan for something brand new, that decision alone can free up hundreds of dollars a month. And none of this is about being extreme, it's about being intentional, because small decisions like that stack up into thousands of dollars over time. Now the second thing, and this is where most people struggle even more than debt, is controlling unnecessary spending. And I don't mean cutting everything out that makes life enjoyable, I just mean being honest with what you actually need versus what you've just gotten used to. Because somewhere along the way, our definition of normal spending got completely blurred. Fast food 3 or 4 times a week starts to feel normal. 5 or 6 streaming services feels normal. Buying random things online just because they're on sale feels normal. But ask yourself, are those things actually improving your life, or are they just filling space? And again, I'm not saying you can never spend money on fun things. You should enjoy your life. But there's a difference between intentional spending and automatic spending. Intentional spending is where you decide, I want this and I'm okay with this no matter the costs. Automatic spending is when you don't even think about it. You just tap, swipe, subscribe, repeat. And that second one is where most people slowly lose control of their money without realizing it. So if you want a simple starting point to get ahead of your money, just don't overcomplicate it. Just ask yourself, do I actually need this? Would I still buy this if nobody else knew about it? Or is it improving my life or just filling a habit? If you can start answering those questions honestly, even half the time, you're already going to be ahead of most people your age. Because here's the truth. Financial success in your 20s isn't about doing everything perfectly. It's about avoiding the big mistakes and building a few basic habits that protect your future self. If you can limit debt and control spending, you're doing more than most people realize. And that alone puts you in a completely different position going forward. That being said, this brings us to the final thing that actually matters in this video, and that's how you win. Because I've talked about how money feels hard, I've talked about how to stop losing with money, but the real question is how do you actually get ahead? How do you win in a time where it feels like everything is stacked against you? The truth is, there are a few real levers you can pull, and the first one, the most important one, is increasing your income. And I know that sounds obvious. Everybody wants to make more money. Nobody wakes up and says, I want to be broke forever. But here's the actual problem. Most people don't actually take intentional steps to increase their income. They just assume it'll happen automatically. Like if you just show up to your job long enough, eventually everything will work itself out. And yes, in some jobs, you might get a small raise over time. Maybe you'll start at 12 an hour, 15, then 20. That can happen. But if that's your entire strategy, just waiting, you are moving at the speed of the system, not at the speed of your potential. So instead of being passive, you have to start thinking differently. How do I become more valuable? Because income follows value. If you're in college or working an entry-level job, you don't just wait your turn, you build skills that make you harder to ignore. Communication skills, sales, marketing, tech skills, finance skills, leadership skills, anything that companies actually pay more for. And here's the key idea. Sometimes the fastest way to increase your income isn't even staying where you are. It's about learning valuable skills, then moving to where those skills are rewarded more. A lot of people get stuck thinking loyalty automatically equals progress, but in reality, switching environments with better skills can sometimes increase your income faster than waiting 5 years for an internal raise. Not always, but often enough that it matters. And then there's another path that people overcomplicate, entrepreneurship. And I don't mean quit everything and start a risky business. Most real entrepreneurs start way simpler than that. It starts as a side hustle, a hobby, something you test in your free time. Maybe it's editing videos, flipping items, freelancing, maybe it's building content. And here's what most people don't realize. Even if it never becomes your full-time job, it can still completely change your financial life. Because if you're making an extra $500 a month, that's $6,000 a year. If you're making an extra $1,000 a month, that's $12,000 a year. And some people scale that to $20,000 to $30,000, even more. Now imagine that on top of your normal income. Let's say you graduate college making $60,000 a year, and you add another $20,000 to $30,000 on that after 5 years of grinding a side hustle. You're suddenly living in a completely different financial category than someone who is only relying on one paycheck and hoping for raises. And that gap only grows with time as well. Because that's the second part of winning. Time becomes your advantage if you use it correctly. Which leads to the second big lever, investing early. This is something that most people hear about but don't actually take seriously until later in life. And I'll be honest, I've started doing this myself and it's completely changed how I look at money. Because when you start investing, you begin to realize something important. Money doesn't just sit still. It can grow with you actively working for every dollar. Some days the market goes up. Some days it goes down. And yeah, there are moments when you see the gains that feel unreal, like making hundreds or thousands in a day on paper. But the most important part isn't the daily movement, it's the long-term trend. Because investing early means your money has more time to compound, and compounding is where things get powerful. If someone starts investing at 18, even small amounts, and stay consistent for years, they can build something massive by the time they're 30 or 40. Meanwhile, somebody that waits until 28 or 30, they're starting from zero or trying to catch up. And I'm not trying to say that to discourage anybody that started later. You can still win, but you can't ignore the math. Time matters. Even simple, consistent investing over years can separate two people dramatically. And the key point here isn't to obsess over every single dollar. It's to build a system where you are consistently growing your money while also growing your income. Because winning in your 20s isn't about being perfect. It's about doing a few things consistently. Making yourself more valuable, increasing your income in intentional ways, and investing early and letting time work for you. Avoid lifestyle traps that keep you stuck, and when you put those together, something starts to shift. You stop just surviving month to month, and you start building momentum. Not overnight, not instantly, but gradually in a way that compounds. And that's really what winning looks like. But now that you know how to win with money in your 20s, there are specific purchases that young adults make consistently that quietly destroy everything you just learned. And some of them are so normalized that most people never even question them. So check out this video where I reveal the 12 purchases young adults make that make me cringe, because knowing how to win with money means nothing if you're still making the purchases that guarantee you'll lose.